All right, we got take two here with Grovey D.
How y'all doing?
All right, we're doing some more videos here for Westside Community Fellowship, and we've done a couple before, and but we've never actually had the opportunity to talk with someone that's actually been a part of our ministry here, that's actually come from experiencing homelessness. So we're going to do that first one here with Grovey D. And first of all, Grovey D is just going to tell us a little bit about how long he's been homeless and how he ended up becoming homeless.
Well, it's like I said, it's been about 11 to 12 years since I've been what I call on the road, um, without a permanent residence or a permanent place that I call home that I've been for any length of time. And matter of fact, this is probably the longest I've been anywhere in about 9 years. I've been married twice, I've bounced all over the place, I've done a little bit of everything. I've been to college 4 times. It's just, if you don't have your insides right, the rest of it can't be right. And I think that's the coolest part about WCF. They work about fixing the inner person. The only way to do that is send it back to the manufacturer by God through Jesus Christ. So.
Right on. Well, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about you had been working as a part of a sales crew and ended up in New York City,
Yeah.
right? And ended up homeless in New York City, and then that kind of started the whole 11 to 12 years. And
Yes.
so kind of the short version of how that 11 to 12 years in New York City to Sumter, South Carolina.
Okay, let's see. I went from New York down the eastern seaboard to Florida. I spent some time in Pensacola, and I worked for Florida Gaming, which is basically like a carnival type. And I did different types of games like darts and tubs and, the strongman hammer, all that kind of thing. And just the way that they have people live, it's kind of rough because they'll have 5 or 6 people sleeping in like the toy bin where they keep all the toys that are prizes. People just sleep right on the toys, and there's a lot of drugs and alcohol and violence and just craziness. So I didn't stick with that job too long. From there, I went back home to live with my grandparents who raised me in Flatwoods, Kentucky, and my grandfather had a stroke, and I took care of him until he passed. And from there, I went west, and I ended up all the way out in Texas. This is on another type of sales crew, basically going door to door, business to business with different cleaners or magazines or something. Doesn't matter what it is, they just travel around and sell. So it's sort of a fly-by-night operations. You can go online and find a number of those where you can just call a 1-800 number, they'll send you a bus ticket, and you're off again. So it's been off and on. I get tired of working for sales crews and carnivals, so I'll just stay outside,
I know you like sleeping in the woods.
Love it. Love it.
All right, so tell the story real quick about how you ended up in Sumter and then how you ended up at 323.
Well, I worked, this is about 10 years fast forward from where I started at my story here. I worked for Citrol, which is C&H Enterprises, for a fellow named Lewis Carter. I traveled around with him for almost a year. I never even stayed in the hotel. I always just took my tent and camped out. I got paid nightly. I was a 10 sale a day agent, so money wasn't the problem. It's just the insides, I have a hard time dealing with people and having 4 walls around me. It's difficult for me. So I was with a girl, and we got into I guess sort of like a deal where he was going to fire her and he wanted to keep me, so I ended up leaving the day before my birthday. They had a birthday party planned for me and a paycheck waiting on me, and I just left. Me and her just hit the road, and that was in let's see, North Carolina. Let's see where that place. Asheville, North Carolina.
So you came from Asheville. You guys were on a bus.
And
Okay, something happened on the bus where you had a little disagreement.
Yeah, she has mood swings big time, and so me and her got into an argument, and she wanted to start fighting physically on the bus, and I was like, "Bus driver, can I get some help?" And he's like, "Not till we get to another stop." So that stop was Sumter, South Carolina. So I grabbed my gear, my sleeping bag, my tent, everything, and I just started walking. The police officer pulled up on me because I guess I looked kind of odd carrying a big backpack with all my stuff in it. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm being homeless. You want to help?" And he dropped me off on the front porch of the Samaritan house. and ID was out in the front yard working on those shelves on that cabinet, and I heard gospel music playing. So I walked across the street, and I met ID and Sheila and Mike McCrae, and Laura, and everybody, and I've sort of been here ever since. So, you know, nothing happens on accident. A man of faith cannot believe in coincidence or chance. I think this was part of God's plan.
Right on. Right on. So tell me this, just real quickly, what was your toughest experience you've ever had on the street being homeless?
Wow, that's a good one. I'd say losing my friend Boxcar. That was probably the worst. I don't know if he lived or died or not. That's the hardest thing about it. But he was sort of there from, I'd say, about Vermont down until I got to Florida. And we were in these cars, like coal cars, that were really big, like industrial size. And they were empty, and we were camping out. And there was one cigarette left in my jacket pocket, and I'd been drinking, so I laid down in the corner of the car, and Boxcar got in my jacket and smoked the last cigarette. So we got in an argument, and I cussed him out and went to the next car over and went to sleep. The next morning I woke up, and all the other cars were gone, including the one he was in. And I climbed up this ladder. That's how you had to get down into the thing. And I looked out, and I see all these cars being pushed by a train just getting filled up with coal. So it was sort of like the Joker on a Batman movie. You don't know if he made it or not. But I hope Boxcar made it, but that was probably the worst thing that's happened to me.
So the car that he was in very likely could have just been filled up with coal with him still in it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That had to be tough.
And
so,
walking away from that train yard thinking that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to
wow.
do.
Wow. I can imagine. So I know you've had some struggles with booze and that kind of stuff over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And so since being here at 323 and being a part of this ministry, I noticed, well, the other day you told me that you have a new addiction in your life. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, my grandfather, he was a minister, and he wasn't the best educated man. You know, he quit school in the 6th grade. But, I mean, he's been preaching the gospel since he was 16 years old. And he adopted me when he was 65. So I got raised by him from, let's see, age 11 up. And I was always, he never whipped us as kids. If we got in trouble or did something, go in your room and read the Bible. Go in your room and read the Bible. So since I've gotten here, that's pretty much what I do. I read the Bible. It's sort of like feeling at home. But, you know, I had messed up ideas like soul sleep. That was a doctrine that he taught, that everybody was just in the ground to sleep until the day of resurrection, the last day, when Jesus comes back and calls the redeemed. You know, then you get up and go to heaven. You know, but that's not the truth. The thief on the cross, he said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Now we're going to take a 2,000-year nap, and then you'll be with me in paradise. You know, I think since I've gotten here, I've gotten to know Jesus. I've read about him, I've studied about him, I've learned his word all my life, but I've gotten to know him here. So, and I've really been hungry for the word since then. That's all I do. I'm either doing something to serve people, or I'm reading, or studying, or learning, or listening to somebody preach, or I don't know, he's preparing me for something, I just don't know what.
Right. Right, and one of the things, I mean, we got work projects that are going on around here all the time for folks that aren't working. They're involved in work projects on the property, multiple Bible studies every week, the outreach opportunities, the worship services, all that kind of stuff. And now you're starting to be used by God too in doing some of the audio stuff with some of the new audio equipment we have, which is kind of cool. And have actually had the opportunity to fill in and lead a couple of Bible studies, and which is pretty significant for just a short period of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just a little bit more real quickly, I mean, where you kind of see yourself going from here, primarily like spiritually. And I mean, I know you feel like God's called you to ministry, and you know, I think sometimes we'll miss certain things like that if we just, you know, if you'd come here and then our primary thing was is you got to get back to work and you got to find another place to live as quickly as possible, then you probably may have once again just missed out on what God's ultimate calling is for your life.
And down the road again, doing the same old stuff.
Right.
I mean, it says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and he'll add the desires of your heart unto you." And that's what I've come to do. Just hold still and study and learn and listen to the Spirit. And whenever the time comes, he's going to give me a job. He's going to give me something to do. I feel like I've got a job now. I mean, I may not be making $100 grand a year, but the pay is going to be way better later on. You know?
Right, because you're serving the Lord.
Yeah.
Storing up for yourselves treasures in heaven.
And I mean, this is probably the brokest I've been, but I mean, I don't hustle people anymore. It's not a quick give me the money thing. It's working for something substantial that can help people. You know, like I'm not the best people person in the world by any means, but I mean, he's changing things about me. It's every day it's something different. I find myself being less the old me and more like he wants me to be. You know, and that's kind of cool for me. I like that.
Being transformed daily into the image and likeness of Christ.
Well, I would like to think so.
Yeah. Well, you are. So, all right, cool. Thanks, man. We're gonna upload this baby and see how it goes.
All right,
man.